Well, everybody, good early February, Wednesday, early evening for me, middle of the afternoon for those on the West Coast, later at night for everybody that follows us from the European side of things. It is February 5th, and this is episode number 190 of Material Issues. I'm Mark Hershberger of Pop Detective Records, and I'm over here in, it's getting chilly, South Jersey, right outside of Philadelphia. But over on the other side of the country, way over there in Southern Cal, outside of LA, my good friend and president of the International Pop Overthrow Festival, Mr. David Bash. David with the bling. How you doing tonight, my friend?
I'm doing okay, Mark. How are you?
I'm great. I got and people may hear in the background, I've got a brand new puppy, a little cheap pin girl. Hey, Rich, good to see you.
Good to see you, Rich.
A little cheap pin girl, just like my other cheap pin Chez, and her name is Audie, AWDI. She will be chiming in from the sofa, most likely, but it's a puppy. Got to train it. What are you going to do? But outside of that, no, it's great. It's great. We've had some nice weather.
The military man, Audie Murphy.
I thought about that, but
no,
there's all kinds of things. But she had the name Audrey from her rescue. She was a rescue dog out of Georgia. She was abandoned in a box with 3 litter mates in the middle of a field and ended up here in South Jersey at a rescue. So I rescued her. But AWDI, it sounds like Audrey. Doesn't confuse her, but it's a little different with Audie. But outside of that, everything's great. Everything's great. Been doing a lot of reading in the last couple of days, and everybody will know why when we talk about it momentarily. But that and listening to a lot of great music from our guest artist and everything he's been involved with. So I think it's been a great week leading up to tonight's show. It's fantastic.
I'm glad to hear that. On my end, my recovery from back surgery is progressing nicely.
Right.
At least it seems to be. I think I made the right decision. I think had I gone with a cortisone shot, which I would have had to get at regular intervals, it would have just been a temporary fix. It would never have cured the problem.
Yeah.
So it may be that the surgery did get rid of the problem for good. I mean, of course it could reoccur if I make a mistake. But so far, things are looking really good with that. As far as IPO goes, we are about 99% full for Liverpool. I'm
nice.
Holding a couple of spots open in the hope that certain bands do accept my invitation. But we've got a great lineup. As usual, more than 10 countries represented.
Nice.
And obviously always looking forward to that one. More than any other, because IPO Liverpool, even after 20 years, still retains the same ethos, the same vibe as the original IPOs in LA did back in the day when people could afford to travel, when everybody was a lot younger and more carefree, and we had a worldwide pop scene under one roof. The same goes at the Cavern. We have a worldwide pop scene there as well. So always looking forward to that. Chicago, I'm still booking. I'm trying to get some more bands from outside of Chicago to come in. I think my biggest problem is that almost everyone is requesting weekend slots. Mm-hmm. I mean, you always get more requests for those than weekday for obvious reasons. But it seems like the ratio is even worse now. And I'm hoping a situation doesn't arise where I actually have to pick and choose who plays and who doesn't.
Yeah.
So hopefully some people will take one for the team and will decide to play on a weekday. I mean, it's mostly local bands anyway. Okay, I just heard from a potential guest, and I will be able to announce that at the end of the show.
Nice.
So anyway,
one thing I wanted to ask you, David, before we get too far away from Liverpool is, do you take anything to clean your brick that's on the wall? Do you take some solvents and some rags and make sure it looks shiny and clean next to Steven Van Zandt and everybody else?
Well, I mean, it's always going to gather a certain amount of dirt. But I haven't been there for 9 months, so I haven't had much I could do about it.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, but you know what?
We need
here's the
updated
interesting
pictures.
thing. Here's the interesting thing, Mark. I got a replica brick.
Yeah.
I think it's the one that I held in the first photo that we took, and I brought it home, and it's still sitting in the exact same spot. Yeah, that's the replica brick. It's still sitting in the exact same spot I put it in when I got home. So I've got to frame it, and hang it somewhere. But I just haven't gotten around to it yet. It's weird.
Still very cool.
But still, no. I mean, the one that counts is the one that's really there.
Yeah.
And I'll probably get some cleaning product when I'm there and make my brick shinier than the others. Why not? Right.
That's right. I would.
Yeah. I would. Well, there you go. I can't wait to see it again.
Awesome.
But today we have a wonderful guest for Material Issues, somebody who I've known for many, many years now, about almost 30 years. And he's played international pop overthrow in various cities all over the world. Well, all over the country. I don't think no. Ha, ha, ha. John, you need to get your hearing fixed. Anyhow, I first met him in the mid-90s, and I think I met him with John Borak and Jordan Oakes at his home in LA at the time. And I had bought this. This is the first release that he was involved with, I believe, the Blazers, How to Rock. He's in this band as Rick Miller, not the Red Sox outfielder, mind you. But they're lead and harmony vocalists and they're guitar players. So this is a really cool record, but it's not quite the power pop or the melodic pop that he became known for. Back in the late 80s, he got signed to CBS, released a major label record called Sunny Nights, and but I hadn't heard it until the mid 90s. But the one that really got me hooked was this one. Me and tons of other people in the pop scene. His first under the moniker P. Hux, the album called Deluxe. And it's just filled to the brim with amazing pop songs. And, it's still going to be here's one thing I want to say about this. We need a vinyl reissue on this album for sure.
Yeah.
There was no point in doing vinyl back in the mid 90s because no one was buying it. But now they would. Over the years, he's released several more albums. I don't have all of them here, but we got Purgatory Falls and blah, blah, blah. And This Is the One. And Thank You, Bethesda. And what else? Mile High Fan from Not Lame. And so he's still prolific, but he has released a new book. Let's see it.
Oh, I got it.
You got it right here.
I got it right here. Yeah. This
I don't have
the
mine.
brand new book.
Electric Light Odyssey, about his memoir, mostly about the band ELO2 or Orchestra and his experience with that.
It's kind of funny. It's a wonderful book, but it weaves through how he got into ELO. But then it's not completely all about ELO, the orchestra, or ELO part 2. It goes into a lot of his solo work, or all of his solo work, and then weaves its way back around to the last 25 years that he's been in that. We're going to talk to you about.
I'm waiting for my copy. It still hasn't arrived, but I will be digging into it. But now let's dig him as we introduce him. Please give a huge Material Issues welcome to Parthenon Huxley.
There is Hux.
Boys. All right. How you doing?
Great to see you. And
good evening.
I have to say, while we never did play pool with Robin Lane, we did have her as a guest on our program.
Yes.
I played pool with the Edge, thanks to Robin Lane.
Oh, that's what it was.
He played pool with Edge from U2.
I can't even get.
But the best was Robin Lane. So
that's right. The best was Robin Lane. She liked that when she heard that record.
Oh, I'm sure she did. How could she?
Yeah,
not?
we mentioned that. I think, in the interview when we talked to her here on Material Issues. But we've had quite a lot of people on Material Issues here that are a couple, what do they call that? The Kevin Bacon thing. A couple things removed from
6
from
degrees
Hux. Yeah.
separation.
Yeah, we've had Dwight Twilley on the show. We've had Glenn Burtnick on the show. We both know Cliff Hillis really well. Audie.
You've had Audie on the show?
Have Audie on the show. I should have called her
Audie's
Audio.
on every program.
Hey, Mark, you took the words out of my mouth. Audio. There you go.
I can change her name. It's only 4 days old. We make it Audio.
Yeah.
I love it. But she's obviously hogging the spotlight. Go ahead. Audie, I'm right here.
Audio,
I'm right here. That's all she needed. She just needed to
keep the spelling that you have, but just add an O to it.
I love it.
Audio. AWDIO.
I'm gonna give both you guys credit. Actually, I just give Hux credit for Audio and change your name. I like it.
Sorry, David.
Audio. Okay.
Oh.
I apologize for the interruption, but it's just a dog. We'll get through it. It's all good. But great to have you here. Hux.
Thank you.
I think primarily it's the book as we want to talk about, but it's this kind of a this is your lifetime kind of thing, because a lot of people that watch this show are interested in how you even got into music to begin with. Did you grow up in a musical family, or what was your initiative early on in life? Piano lessons that your parents forced you into, trumpet, flute, violin, and then you ended up with guitar? How did it all start?
No to all the above.
Okay.
It was hearing the Beatles on the radio, and the British Invasion following, Kinks, Dave Clark 5, Motown, everything. Just before the Beatles, as I say in the book, the music in our house was like The Shadow of Your Smile, or it was the Smothers Brothers, or Henry Mancini was good, but it wasn't anything like it wasn't this screaming punk rock and made by 4 people. And it was just, that I'm like 50 million other guys who had to have a guitar the day after Ed Sullivan's show, February 9th, I think it was, 64.
Yeah.
It was just unbelievable. And it's a common story. It's in every book I've ever read about anybody my age who writes a book, how they got started. And then you either bought a guitar and started writing songs, or just went into the worship group where you didn't play music, but you worshiped them and they were the soundtrack of your life. I feel really lucky. I'm sure there's a lot of people that feel lucky they were a kid when they saw Elvis too, or Benny Goodman or whoever it was, But for me, it was the Beatles, and that has really held up well. It's my religion. Mark Lewison can't write that second book fast enough for me.
Yeah.
And they're just locked in. Even no matter how much true stuff I know as an adult, it still hasn't taken them off the pedestal for me. I know they were human. I've met Paul, hung out with Paul a little bit. What my guitarist Rusty Anderson is now in Paul's band for the last 25 years.
Yep.
There's a lot of normal adult things in there. It doesn't change it because the music is that good. That's what it's that good.
And it proves itself today with young people that can talk intelligently about the Beatles. They can't talk intelligently about a lot of other 60s acts or 50s acts, even Elvis anymore. I mean, even Elvis, you can talk to an 18-year-old today and they can rattle off Beatle titles, but they have a hard time rattling off.
There's a hell of a chance they were conceived by somebody who liked the Beatles. I mean,
right. Yeah.
So that's how it all got started. And then I had a mysterious experience on a very small ocean liner compared to today's ships. My dad got assigned to Athens, Greece, and they eased the transition for us from suburban New Jersey by putting us on a boat. And I started writing songs up in the observation deck. I started hearing music in my head that I was making up instead of just remembering. And I said, oh, that's different.
How old are you at this point?
10.
Okay.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And that's never stopped.
10, not bad.
That's never stopped.
Well, so you're a little bit older than I am. You're closer to David's age. So you really were coming of age in the 60s. You were hearing everything on 60s radio.
Yeah.
Especially the late 60s. Yeah, obviously with your age, if you talk about 8 to 10 years old.
The late 60s, but when we moved to Greece in 66. So the late 60s I was in Greece, and we didn't have, American radio was pretty much gone. There was, the Armed Forces Radio Network had Casey Kasem's top 20 or top 40, I think. We never listened to that. It was all about albums and, big brothers coming back from college, visiting Athens over the holidays and bringing like Hendrix and Cream and Doors, that's how we got our music.
And you were, so you were in Greece at age 10. Did you get into your high school years in Greece, or were you back? Yeah. All right.
Fifth grade to 12th grade.
How fluent are you? I assume very.
Milao ligo Ellenika. I speak a little Greek. I can get us on the right bus, David.
That would be a big help.
I can order a salad. That's about all I can do.
I can do that.
So talk about your high school years a little bit. Did that include playing in bands, doing something with your Greek friends, to speak?
A couple things. My mom, occasionally she would go back to the States and bring back toiletries and lots of stuff we couldn't get in 1967 Athens. Just, the toothpaste we liked, etc., just stuff like that. This was only 20 years after the war and the Civil War in Greece. But one time she brought back a Fender 66 Deluxe Reverb and a Fender Mustang. And,
wow.
She never loved the noise we made in the house, but she gave us the damn guitar and the amp, so, and we already had some drums. So band practice and jamming and learning and all that stuff tended to happen in our house. There weren't a lot of, not everybody had a guitar or an amp or drums in the house. So we were all terrible at first, but eventually, I think by the time I was 12, I had a little party band, and we were, playing Satisfaction and Hold On, I'm Coming and Midnight Hour and whatever chords we could learn,
Right. When did you start playing your own music, the stuff you were writing?
Well, probably by 9th grade, I was in a band that was a bunch of high school guys and some soldiers who were probably, super older than us, like 20.
Right.
Usually older, yeah. So I brought a couple original songs to that band, and then I went, I had my acoustic solo guy phase where you could write all your sensitive lyrics. So I was doing that, but I didn't play those for everybody. That was kind of private.
Right.
And then I moved back after I moved back to the States, to Chapel Hill, and I got a journalism degree after 5 years. I took 1 year off, but all the talent in the States was beyond belief. I mean, even the cover bands, Jethro Tull cover band would come through and be like, "Oh my God!"
Right.
Like these guys were so good. Like the guy from Deep Purple and Dixie Dregs, Steve Morse, he played. And it was like, what is that? That's impossible. And I mean, it was just, the level was really, really high. And I said, shit, I'm never going to be that good. But eventually, I was a capable songwriter and a reasonable player, as long as it wasn't single notes. I was kind of a strummer.
Right. Yeah. And are you self-taught as far as the guitar is concerned, or did you end up self-taught? Okay. Yeah.
I mean, there were older kids in Greece who could play. We had teen bands. We had teen band shows, which was awesome because the community was small, and anything that happened, we were all a part of. And so they knew my older brothers, and so it wasn't too annoying when I said, "How do you play an F chord? Show me that," that kind of thing. But it was a really nice, I mean, it was a great place to grow up. I'll tell you that. It was just, the school was super international, and the weather's perfect. The day after school's over, you head out to the Greek islands. It was good. Trust me. It was good.
Yeah. Not bad. Not
bad. Yeah.
Not bad at all. At what age did you move back?
Did our honeymoon there. We went through the entire process of booking everything, and the last page before you have to pay, suddenly the price jumped $800. So we ended up we both have roots in Israel, so we ended up going to Tel Aviv. But Athens was going to be where we went.
Oh, well, go to greasetravel.com. It's run by my old friend from Greece, Matt Barrett.
Really? Okay. Yeah. No, we
there
do want to go there someday.
Greasetravel.com. Let's shout out to Matt Barrett. Yeah, there you go. You never know. Yeah, we'll put that on a scroll. Greece, Greece. That's how you spell Greece these days, right? Travel.com. There we go. Greasetravel.com. Anybody?
Yeah. Oh, nice. All right.
There you go. That'll be on the archive. So anybody traveling in that direction, there you go. Greasetravel.com. Tell them Hux and Material Issue sent you.
Maybe this will be impetus for you to write a song centered on greasetravel.com.
How about you put up ParthenonHuxley.com there too, just so my friend.
Oh, I already got that. That's coming up as soon as we. That's gonna scroll.
I love you, Matt, but you know.
Yeah, it takes. Yeah, we gave you 22 seconds there. That's. Yeah, Parthenon Huxley. That's going to be scrolling down at the bottom. ParthenonHuxley.com. It's everything Parthenon Huxley and the brand new book that we'll talk about shortly. That's all going to be there as well. But if you're traveling,
I would assume your love for and residence in Greece inspired the name Parthenon Huxley.
Yeah, it's a shout out to that. And Huxley was. I wasn't a giant fan of Brave New World, but he had his last book was called Island.
Right.
And that's a great book. Well, it was when I was young. So I thought Parthenon Huxley was kind of catchy. I wasn't trying to be super clever. I just liked it. And I had, if you're a musician, you can change your name. So
sure.
But it's worked out really well because I'm pretty much the only one.
That I believe.
I would say that's absolutely true. I remember. I remember when I met you way back in the day. We talked about this a little bit earlier pre-show. Was at the North Star Bar on the Nonstop Pop Roadshow with Paul Collins, who was, for me, he was the king of power pop at the time and everything he did. And of course, picked up your album Deluxe, and you guys are coming through. And I popped that picture up earlier. There's a picture of you at the North Star Bar with Paul Collins. Of course, your power trio of Gordon Townsend and Rob Miller was the three people playing, and just slayed that night, just killed. Of course, Gordon and Rob spending a lot of time in Philadelphia with Tommy Conwell and the Young Rumblers, so they were well known there as well. So
they were spectacular players. Made it really easy for me.
Oh my gosh! They were tops. But let's rewind a little bit and get back to your playing days. So you're writing some songs, you're doing some things. You moved back to the States at what age?
I finished high school 18.
Yeah, and back to North Carolina, and you went to the University of North Carolina.
I had never been to North Carolina,
North Carolina.
To North Carolina, and I was just looking for a huge liberal arts program.
Right.
And I had to do general college, and I that was rough. I did fine, but I decided to take a year off, and I worked at the Carolina Coffee Shop, which is this old institution that's been there for 100 years, right in the middle of town, Chapel Hill. Chapel Hill's a great town too. And
it is, yeah.
I found out that I didn't know anything about the States. I'd been gone for 8 years, and I found out that everybody, like the waiters, the chefs, the busboys, they were all musicians and artists and painters and pilots and, actors and writers. And I went, wait a minute, you don't have to be in college to do all this stuff. And it was a real eye opener. It's like, oh my God, I've slipped into a secret society here. I'm not just making, busboy tips, to keep alive. But that was a real eye opener. I went back and finished school, got my journalism degree, mostly to please my parents. And it seemed like the thing to do. And, college was cheap back then. $1,800.
Wow. You can't even buy semester's books for that anymore.
No, some places were cheap.
What are books? I'm sorry, Mark. Do you say books? I'm not sure what. Oh, that's right. I wrote one.
Back in the old days, the books.
Things that
CarolinaCoffeeShop.com. It doesn't exist. I'm teasing.
Yeah, thank you.
We're only showing ParthenonHuxley.com across the bottom. I don't know. I go off.
But anyway, just as a side note, there's a guy named David Zucchino who I think either worked at the shop or was there all the time, or his girlfriend worked there, now wife. He's a Pulitzer Prize winner.
Wow.
Another guy, Steve Levitas, who was a waiter, was head of the Environmental Defense Fund, I think, for North Carolina. Another guy who used to doodle with Sharpies on napkins became the head of the art department at the University of Maryland. I mean, these were talented people all in one place. It was really cool, and of course it led me to meeting Don Dixon, who was the godfather of the scene there, as well as a member of bands and stuff. But he produced everybody's first 1 or 2 records, and so everybody got a taste of a good production job on their first one, and then it was off. Now you go, do it yourself. But it was a great place to land. I got really lucky.
Yeah, amazing. Well, take us post college though. What were your? Yeah, I was going to say, what were your plans? Were your plans that direction musically, or were your plans?
Don't ever accuse me of having a plan, Mark. How somebody, maybe some business guy said to you, "Where do you see yourself in 5 years?" It's I can't see 5 minutes ahead of myself. 5 days maybe.
Yeah.
And my plan was to get what I heard in my head onto a material object like a record or a cassette. That was my plan. My plan was 2 feet long. I mean, it was just, that's all I wanted to do, was to learn how to do that. Be a good player live, make a great record, learn how to sing and play really well, and get on with it. That's what I really wanted to do. And slowly but surely I had opportunities like playing at the Cat's Cradle, which was the local club there. And Town Hall was another great venue. And I got asked into a bar band that was kind of like highbrow covers, like rare Elvis Costello songs and other things like, what did they do? Like Sleepy LaBeef. This band was called the Blazers. And shout out to Sherman, who's the leader of the band, who is recovering in the hospital from heart surgery, I think. But I won't talk about old people. Because that's all I do all day. But I learned how to be a professional, and I brought my original songs to the band, so the tone of the band kind of shifted, and we had some original material too, and it fit right in with everything. It was kind of dwilly, petty, twilly, petty, that kind of thing, Beatles, and so it was like, okay, I'm playing live. People are dancing. They like these songs. They're requesting them. This is all adding up to something. And then I went through another, series of bands that were kind of democratic. Like everybody got a chance to write songs. And eventually, by the time I was 26, I decided I'd rather be a benign dictator, bricktator, and decided to write all the songs and just have a rhythm section play with me. And these guys were fine. And we called that, they were fine with that concept. We called that band Rick Rock, and we rehearsed like crazy. We put out a couple songs on a compilation album, and Buddha Buddha, which turned out to be one of my better known songs. And
yeah, it seems like almost every time that I've seen you played, you pull that one out.
You got to do it. First of all, it's a nice respite from songs that are harder to play. You always want, I mean, if you guys play, you always want a song in the set where it's like, oh, good, we get to do this one now. Rather than, what was that first chord?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I remember the first time I really heard Buddha Buddha again was at that show I saw you, and it wasn't on P Hux Deluxe, so that's what led me back to your history, because I had to find that song because it's just very catchy. It's a catchy, great live song. And I said, where'd that come from? And that led me backwards to Sunny Nights, and that's where I found out what you're all about. And I dug that record as well. Different than Deluxe, obviously.
How did you get the major label deal, the brass ring?
After Rick Rock, we rehearsed for 9 months. We played for about 9 months. And I got really ambitious, and we booked a tour, out to Nebraska and Indiana and Chicago. And the van broke down. The guys mutinied. They went home. I didn't blame them. I don't blame them now. I was mad then. But then I couldn't bear the idea of forming another band. So I went to a studio guy and said, I'd really like to do some demos that we could really work hard on and not be limited by my $222 that I saved up for studio time, And don't
want to be limited by the money.
Well, it was always, like, I have this much money. Can I record a two-sided? Can I record Buddha and Sputnik? Right. 2 songs on. Yeah. So I spent all this time on these two songs. We sent them out to the major labels, and a couple of them, like Island and EMI, called back because the phone number was on the cassette, and said, "Your songs were our favorite at this week's A&R meeting." And I said, "Oh, I wonder who I should sign with, Island or EMI." And they said, "Do you have more?" And I went, "Sure, yes, I do."
Mm-hmm.
But it taken, we spent 6 months on the first two. I didn't say that, but anyway, the whole process began with, talking to the majors and being led down the aisle a little bit and then back. And I ran into Dixon at this time, and this is in the book too. And I said, "Hey, I heard from Island and EMI. I'm pretty excited. I've always liked Island and stuff." And he goes, "Yeah, that's great." And I went, "Well, it's good, right?" And he goes, "Oh, yeah. And I said, "What's up, Dixon?" He goes, "Well, now you're in the waiting room." I went, "The waiting room?" And he goes, "Yeah, they know you're out there." And I said, "Well, how long do you have to be in the waiting room?" He goes, 2 years.
I never heard that before.
It was pretty good. He was spot on. 2 years later, I was on Columbia. But in between that, I had moved to New York. Happenstance got me a connection with an LA manager, Michael Solomon, who took my songs, and he knew the vice president of MCA Publishing really well. So he snuck into his office and cleared all the cassettes away and put mine in the middle with his card and said, "Call me after you've heard this." And this guy was Rick Shoemaker, VP at MCA, and he loved it. And I met him. I was living in New York at the time. He flew out with his film and TV guy, and we had dinner and we had a great time. And I signed with MCA. I didn't even know what a publishing deal was, before that, because record deal is what everybody wanted. And they said, "Well, they'll pay you an advance salary, and you can use their studio out in LA anytime you want." I'm going like, "So you're paying me for doing something I do anyway, which is write songs, and I have a studio there?" So wow. It was pretty awesome. And I was there for 5 years, and they were super supportive, and they took my stuff around so I didn't have to embarrass myself in A&R meetings anymore and not knowing, the lay of the land. And David Kahn at Columbia got really interested, and Jamie Cohen at Columbia got interested. So David was a staff producer. He'd just done the Bangles record of the year and all that. And we got along well, two totally different people, but we got along well and made the record. And there's a little too much keyboard on it from David, but they're legit ideas. It's just that I'm a guitar player, and I think the songs that lean more toward guitar are really more of a sound like me. But hey, it came out. My name's on the big red label, the same as Santana and Dylan in Chicago, and that's a major victory. Did it sell? No, it disappeared pretty quickly. But I still hear from people. It must have sold something, because I keep hearing from lots of people who say, "Oh, yeah. This record."
But I'll tell you what, I love that story. I love this Don Dixon saying, "Yeah," and the way you tell it. And that's what I loved about this book. It's very conversational. You get into a lot of conversations that you have with people, and the humor in the writing is what really stood out to me, because you have to kind of read through it and say, "Oh, I thought this was going to be like this." And then, you talk to somebody and you're like, "No, it's not always like that." And that really comes through well in this book. That's why I told you earlier before the show, it's so well written. I breezed through this thing in about a day and a half because I was so enthralled by it. Really, really well written. But that's what I like about it. Very conversational. And it makes the reader feel like you're sitting right there in the room watching you get a little red-faced over, like, not knowing exactly what's going on. It's great. I love it.
There's victories and defeats and conundrums, and everybody's life is full of this stuff. Eventually it all just kind of equals out. But I worked really hard on it. I spent probably 9 years on it, with the last 3 years during COVID pretty much writing every day. And finally, the landscape sort of sorted itself out. The structure of the book is that phone call from Yellow Part 2 for the first 100 pages. Then the next 200 pages are birth to that phone call.
Right. Yeah.
And then the third section is what happened after Bev Bevan left ELO Part 2. And I'm really glad you enjoyed it, and that's exactly what I hope you would get out of it. It's like, oh, it's fun, and it's a quick read, and it is 375 pages. It's not a little book.
It is not a little book. It's there's a lot, but and you do have a decent amount of pictures in here as well in 2 sections. Not always takes up about 20 pages, but no, it is it's so well written, and a lot of people that watch this show really love the behind the scenes or how it happened kind of stories, especially with people that we've talked to from bands in the 60s and early 70s. It's just fascinating how they got signed or how it was backstage opening up for this or that, or how they did that. And that's what I love about a book like this, Hux, is that it really takes you like you're sitting in the room, like you're a fly on the wall. I'm cringing sometimes whenever you're getting into it. I'm like, ooh, how does this work out? Oh, I got to keep reading this.
Boy, Hux is fucking up here, boy. Woo! It's we all know the framework, the general thing. Like I'm reading Jerry Shirley's book now, the drummer of Humble Pie, who first went out with him when he was 16.
Right.
And friends with Steve Merritt, who's probably 21 or 2, even after a career with the Small Faces. I mean, it's insane. And his book's pretty good. One of my favorites of all time, and I hope it was him that wrote it, but even if he had help, it doesn't matter. It's such a great book. It's Tom Jones. His book is incredible. And if you think about a kid who grew up in a little coal town in Wales, and then he's singing with Elvis in Vegas, Elvis is in the shower and says, "Tom, come in here. Don't come in the shower or anything, but I want to harmonize with it." It's like, Jesus Christ.
It's the wonders. How did we get here?
Well, exactly. And he is so full of wonder in that book. It's like, how could, he said, I was a good singer. I was a good performer, but still. And I want to give a shout out to Michael Roney, who's my publisher. He has a company called High Point. It's kind of a hybrid. He has all the experience of a major publisher. But what you do is you pay for the services. You own your book. You pay for his services as a publishing type of guy, and you're very much focused on by the publisher. You're not the last guy in line at Random House or whatever. And I'm leaving out a lot of stuff that I went through to arrive at this point. Like,
sure.
Most agents will say, well, give me a 50-page, plan, a marketing plan. And it's like, can you just read a couple pages of my book first before I do your work, and so the publishing, I knew it would be weird, and it's just a different weird from the music industry, but it's, but Michael Roney at High Point said, I'm the perfect guy to do this book with you. I know every band you're talking about in this book. And he's like, done.
Is he associated with High Point, North Carolina at all? Or is this just
no, it's just the name of the company, High Point Lit. And he's up in New York area. And I can't tell you how important it was to have somebody who I knew would keep letting my leash out, because I kept saying, I just got to add one more thing. I said, I got to get this story in, and he said, put it in.
Well, let's talk briefly about how you're remembering all this stuff in this book, not only your own career, but the detail you go into about how you got into ELO, the orchestra, ELO Part 2, etc. But I mean, where does the memory come from? Were you journaling at the time? Were you keeping notes, or what sparked that?
I can't remember a damn thing now, but yesterday, I don't know, but 50 years ago, it's fine. It is a really funny thing. You almost get a new relationship with your memory. There were some things that just stuck in my mind. Not everything. Like somebody will say, do you remember when we were at this place? I go, nope. But there are certain things that stuck in my mind as important. And those are a lot of those kind of conversations I had with people that I had other people in quotes, because it was so defined in my brain. So that was one source, was my burning hot memories that I really remembered, and things that were said that stuck with me, like Bev, I took a picture of the ELO Part 2 marquee on our first tour, and he goes, keep that for evidence. And I said, what? He says, keep it for evidence. We didn't call ourselves ELO. And I said, well, we're not ELO. And he says, well, that's right. And we can never call ourselves ELO or there'll be trouble. And I said, well, that conversation is, that's locked in.
Right.
And then other stuff was I was journaling. I joined the band in 98. We started touring in 99. And if I was in some obscure, town in Chile, I would journal on the plane as soon as we left, just try to remember the past 3 days, everything that happened and describe it. And, the radio station and the guy's house and the weird food or the beach or whatever it was. And, with the names of the people who hosted us and what was cool about it. And because we would do these interesting things. We'd go up into the Andes Mountains to a hippie resort, play in a town with a volcano in Chile or, just there was a lot of stuff going on that I'd never seen before. And I would journal it. So after about maybe 20 years of this, I started to put everything into a laptop. And I had maybe 100 pages, 120 pages. I said, this is starting to look like something. I wasn't sure what it was. Should I write a rock and roll travel log just of all the cool places, or should it be my story? How much of my story? It took a while to sort out the landscape. And I'm really glad it landed where it did. I think it works. But it was a shitload of work, I got to tell you.
Have you heard from any of the ELO guys that the conversation of the book where they've said to you, no, I didn't say that?
Everybody seems okay. Everybody seems okay with the book.
Okay.
They seem to like it a lot. And I think I'm harder on myself than I am on anybody else in that book. So I'm not here to throw dirt. And, there's a couple weird experiences that I had for sure.
Sure.
Co-writing and things like that. It can be odd. Did you just go away? Oh shit! Hold on.
No, you're getting another call.
Yeah, let me get rid of that.
It's all good.
So Parthenon, I gotta ask you, when did you and how did you get hooked up with a man who once on stage I heard you describe as a wealth of mirth and merriment? That would be E. Do you remember saying that?
I don't, but that would be a nice sarcastic introduction of E. Actually, he's really, really freaking funny. If you've ever spent time with E, he's funny as hell. I just saw him not long ago in LA, and we played at the Fillmore here in Silver Spring, Maryland, a couple of years ago.
Oh, nice.
He was after my Columbia record didn't do much in terms of making a dent on paying MCA back. Remember that advance they were giving me every month?
Yeah.
So they said, we'd like you to write with other people. And E was one of the first. Betsy Anthony was the executive there, VP at MCA. And she said, I think you guys will get along. And E had been signed by Carter, this guy, John Carter, who was instrumental in Tina Turner's comeback in the 80s. And he wrote Incense and Peppermints and stuff. A guy who'd been around forever. He managed E and he got him signed to Polydor. And E was doing these 4-track cassette demos. And that's what Betsy gave me to listen to. And the songs were all there, if you know E's stuff, he's very consistent with his short, concise, really smart, melodic.
Yeah.
He's got that gruff voice that's, really entertaining. It's just, it sits well. And so we started writing songs. Carter thought maybe it'd be good for him to stretch out a little bit. And the first song we wrote was Hello, Cruel World, which we recorded not on 4-track cassette, but on 16-track 2-inch tape at MCA. And the president of Polydor, which was David Segerson, he said, that's E and Parthenon working together? That sounds great. They should co-produce the album. So I was suddenly a record producer. And and then they said, we went on tour opening for Tori Amos. And I co-wrote 2 of the singles on the record that got onto the alternative charts. So I was a sideman live, and a co-producer and a co-writer. Now it was like, that wasn't my ideal path. When I was 14, listening to Led Zeppelin headphones, I was the guy in the middle writing songs, playing the guitar, singing, doing everything, But this path has kind of that's why I called the book my zigzag life.
Yes, it's my zigzag life and the iconic band that changed everything.
Yeah, and because it's the path. I'm sure you guys are surprised where you've ended up at certain points in your life, right?
Yes,
how the hell did I get here? It is true, and it's kind of looking back, it's less boring than playing. Let's say I was really popular and I played the same sheds every summer. I don't know. I don't know. Is that a dream? I'm not sure. You know, I mean, God bless anybody who can fill a shed. I can't, you know, I mean, right. So there's, it's kind of like what you get is what you get. And it reflects how hard you work, how lucky you are, how good your shit is, you know?
Yeah.
So,
a lot of hard work that goes into it. I mean, real quick. Yeah, I fell in love with A Man Called E when it came out, and
what a wonderful album.
Yeah,
I mean, incredible. And as I was hyped to see you in Philadelphia, he came through to the Tin Angel, which is a small place in Philly, just hit a keyboard and him, and he came out. He played about 20 seconds, and he slammed his fingers down the keyboard and said "F this," and he walked out, and never came back.
Wow.
Never came. And
wow.
I think he was going. I don't know him personally, so I think he was going through some trouble at the time. But that was my experience with E. Wishing I could see a live show of his, but
that's too bad.
It might have been the keyboard. Maybe he didn't like what someone provided a bad keyboard. Could have been. I've seen that happen with Neil Innes. He was like, "F this with this keyboard."
Well, I think the Replacements played the Cat's Cradle. I think they lasted a song and a half before the drunken fist fight started. You
know? That was it.
But yeah, that's too bad.
I'm sorry I wasn't there. God, what was I going to say? I completely lost my train of thought. So go ahead.
Yeah, we're all good. I still love you.
He's become quite the entertainer. They did a really funny thing at the Fillmore. There's four guys in the band, and they had a big screen behind them. And at one point, this message started flashing on the screen, and it said the drummer's name, and it says has reached his steps goal for the day, or his calorie goal for the day.
Right.
and he goes, the drummer always gets there first.
Yeah.
Which you would. He's just like way at the end of the show. He said, finally.
I know what I wanted to say. Did you know, Parthenon, that there is actually a vinyl version of A Man Called E? South Korean pressing. That's it.
No.
Yeah. There you go.
I saw it on Discogs. It wasn't cheap. I was thinking about it. I snoozed and I lost. It is not there anymore.
Wow. Damn. Yeah. No, I've never seen that.
Wow.
Well, if I ever
I'll get a check from it soon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any day now.
Yeah. I'm sure
that's something.
It right now.
That's something.
So how are you liking LA at this point? Better than Chapel Hill? I mean, like when you're working with E and you're already kind of entrenched there.
I've lived in Maryland. I've lived in Maryland for 20 years.
Oh, I know. I'm talking about the early 90s.
Like, what about it?
Are you enjoying LA at this point?
Yeah. I mean, it's a love-hate with that place. I mean, it's kind of a weird, dusty little beach town writ large, right? I mean, it's a funky place, but it's fantastic too. It's just got everybody's there, and you can find anything there. The food's amazing, the weather's great, the talent is beyond belief. When we were mixing Sunday Nights, I was parking next to Roy Thomas Baker's Rolls Royce because it said RTB on it. It's like, and that's the good and the bad side. Is like it's easy to get jealous of people's success because there's a lot of successful people there. You go over to somebody's house and you go, "Holy shit, this is."
So then you go to the next person's house, and it's even better. Yeah.
You just, and it's that's all fine, but you do take that in. It's like, oh, I see where I am on the pecking, in the pecking order, which is fine. It's fine, but everybody, it's what I loved about it the most, I think, was that when I first got there, I was on a little TV show, and there were all these people my age walking around with paint and ladders, and it was like a studio is an art enclave. Like they're making backdrops and filming shows, and it's like LA's an art town. Nobody calls it an art town.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, oh, it's Hollywood, or it's Sin City, or it's
Yeah.
There's a lot of negative ways to talk about LA, and no one would call it an art town, which is exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And dreams of success with it. Yes. A commercial side of it. But if you can be creative with your own shit and make a living at it, come on.
Yeah.
That's the dream.
And why Maryland for a lot of years? What was the draw about Maryland? I lived in Hanover for a number of years, right above Owings Mills, and
Yeah, I'm in Chevy Chase. It's basically DC.
Yeah.
And my wife is, before we married, she was Helly O'Connell, and she was a music supervisor. She worked at New Line, then she worked at Sony and Warner Brothers, putting songs into TV and film.
Sure.
And it's a pain in the ass having a wife who with greater knowledge and taste than yourself, because I can't sneak a song by her and say, "Aren't I talented?" So we had our first child, Fiona, and we decided that going back to Maryland here, where her family was, and all her cousins and her aunts and uncles, and our kids would grow up with their extended family. So, which is hard to pull off these days,
Sure.
And so that's why, and it's turned out to be a very workable place. There's a lot of brain power here. Not currently in the White House, but I didn't say that.
Not currently and previously.
There's a lot of hardworking people here who are diligent and smart and doing good stuff, and I get to be the weirdo on the corner with the little office with all the weird art and the guitars. So it's kind of nice that way. It's worked.
It's a nice central hub to get everywhere.
Yeah.
In about the same amount of time. All over, not only the East Coast, but at the same time to get west as you go farther east in Europe and farther
it
south.
turns out to be one of the greatest airport hubs ever. I mean, you can go anywhere, and I think it's to accommodate, congressmen and senators and stuff. You have to get a quick flight somewhere.
Yeah.
But with all the flying I've done, I've never connected in Dulles or landed there. Interesting.
It's not that kind of hub, I don't think. Well, it's a United hub, I think, but no, Newark is. No, it's just an airport that you can get anywhere to. There's 3 airports here. So,
yeah.
Anyway.
So in the mid 90s, all of a sudden power pop or melodic pop music is starting to come back, at least in the underground sense. And the Poptopia Festival starts, and Not Lame starts as a catalog and then ultimately a label. And right around that time, you and the guys recorded this album, which was a huge hit with those of us in the pop scene. Tell us a little bit about the creation of this album and how you feel about it now.
What happened was after my 5 years with MCA, I'd done about 3 years of co-writing, and when it works, it works. Like with E, it worked, and with a few people. I mean, I wrote with Foreigner. That was kind of weird, and it was okay. Wow. And Stevie Salas, that really worked. But when they let me go and I was jobless in LA for the first time, most people probably would have gotten a job, but I decided to start a band. And I would walk. I lived in Echo Park, right by Legen Park, and I would walk my dog. And every day I'd write a song. I mean, because I was off the leash. I was free. I didn't have to co-write. I didn't have to think about hits. I just could write for me. And it'd been, a little while, and it was totally liberating. And I reached out to my friend Jennifer Condos, who's a great bass player out there, and said, if you know any, if you hear about any drummers, let me know. And she said, well, this guy just moved to town named Gordon Townsend, and he's looking for action. So Gordon came over to my place. I played him I think we played the first verse of One More Day in the Life. That was one of my new songs. And he was just killing it. And I said, okay, this is awesome. This is exactly who I want. It's Ringo and Bonham together. And then he said, I know this guy, Rob Miller, who we'd be lucky to get him. I said, he's good. He says, yeah, he's really good. It's like, and Rob's the best bass player I've ever played with. I mean, just
wow.
Sensational. I played with some really good bass players, and he's just one of these guys. It makes you crazy. Every choice is good. Every choice is right in the pocket. Every choice is melodic. Just a force to be reckoned with. Jennifer Condos took lessons from Rob after she met him. That's ridiculous. That's like McCartney taking lessons from somebody like, Jocko, maybe,
right.
But anyway, so I suddenly had this amazing trio that just fell together. And I got a phone call from a guy who said, my name is Matt Heimbold, and I just graduated from UCLA, and I'm going to start a label up in Monterey. And Sunday Nights was my favorite album all through college. And I said, really? And he goes, yeah. And I want you to be the first artist on my label. And he says, but you have to promise me that you can make a record as good as Sunday Nights. Well, I just happen to have this hot ass trio and 10 new songs.
Right. Yeah.
Wow.
Timing couldn't have been much better, you know? So we recorded at Sandbox, which was Parker. What's Parker's first name again? Anyway, recorded the basic tracks in LA onto tape, and then we transferred to ADATs, and where there was no degeneration of the signal, and we did all the overdubs on ADATs, put it back to tape, mixed at Enterprise, where I parked next to Roy Thomas Baker. And David Leonard, who had done some work with Prince, did the mix. And no, that was Sunday Night. Sorry. Mike Bosley. Do you guys know Mike Bosley?
I don't
He's
know.
A tremendous engineer. He did the mix at not Enterprise. I'm mixing things up. At it was out in the Valley.
Sorry.
See, now it's happening. Boo! But anyway, it turned out, and then we got it mastered at Capitol, and there was a guy there named Wally Troggett, and he was a older Canadian gentleman. He had glasses on a chain, and he said, "Okay, well, you guys go play ping pong for a little bit, and I'll get started on this, P. Hux Deluxe." I said, "Great." And so he said, "Come on in and have a listen, boys." And he had, this mastering thing with the big knobs and everything, right? Just classic old stuff and tube technology. And he goes, "This is what you brought me." And we're, here in California or one of the songs. And I go, "Yep, there it is. It couldn't possibly sound any better than that." And then he goes, "And here's what I've got." And it went from, wow.
What? Yeah.
And it was just like, oh, there's the triangle. Oh, there's the tambourine. Oh, there's the kick drum just kicking it was like, oh my God, Wally, what did you do? And he goes, "So you like the direction I'm going in?" Yeah.
I gotta tell you, that's what really struck me when I got that album. It just, the sound was, it was like you were live in the room. It just jumped out of the speakers, and it just blew me away. Everything about it. That's one of the albums I can say, top to bottom, seriously, all killer, no filler as far as the songs are concerned. But everyone just sounds so good. And that stuck with me forever, and the lyrics. And you're a great lyric writer too. I love your I love your bent on wordplay and just everything you do. You're one of those artists, and there's probably 10 in my mind that I always go back to and say I love to hear David is not as much of a lyrics guy as I am. He's more of the overall sound guy. But I listen to lyrics, and even a song that maybe you may think of as a throwaway, like "It'll Be All Right." I mean, that lyric there, we say our prayers, we pray they're heard, that hard times now might be bliss deferred. That has stuck with me for all these years.
I'm so thrilled you said bliss deferred. I thought, I can't possibly sing bliss deferred.
You do.
It's just sort of bliss deferred. It just yes, but that's thank you so much. I think you may be the first guy who's brought it up, and I was really happy with that line. And again, even with a simple song like that, you can't let it go by if it's not working for me as a writer. I'm slack in a lot of areas of my life, I'll admit, but when it comes to making the records, every second from beginning to end, it has to be what I'm looking for, or what I'm happy with. And I really appreciate that. And I want to also bring up a guy in Sand City, up in Monterey, Black Olive Records, the studio. His last name was Olivo. I'm forgetting his first name now, but he and Mike Bosley and then Wally Troggett, the mastering, are really responsible for how good it sounded. I got to work with 3 really good engineers, and the band is good, and I knew what I wanted, but they still have to capture it the right way. And
sure,
they did a great job.
And I'll tell you that.
I'm sorry. Correct me if I'm wrong, but was the song "Live Like a King" a dedication to your wife Janet at the time?
Yeah.
That's right. I remembered. Such a beautiful.
What's really weird about that is that Deluxe was, inspired by us getting together and everything, and then Purgatory Falls was, of course, about her passing away. So it's kind of like I mean, I wrote a shitload of songs about her.
Yeah.
And
well, all I can say is thank you so much for not only that album, but that little lyric right there. That gets me. You have no idea how many times in my life I'm just walking along because things aren't, what you hope they would be, or haven't turned out that way. And you carry on because hard times now might be bliss deferred. And I say that to myself all the time. And it's just from that one little segment from P. Hux Deluxe. And that's partially why I'm very thrilled to have you on the show here tonight.
I love that, man. That's great. That really makes my day.
Oh,
it's one. Yeah, it's fantastic. All the time. That's stayed in my head for many years. And I get through every day like that with a smile on my face because bliss deferred. And you sang bliss deferred. It was great. Yeah, I loved it. Wonderful. Wonderful. Yeah.
So this about takes us into when you joined Orchestra. How did that all happen?
I was it's the very beginning of the book. It was basically I was like I said, my wife passed away. Janet passed away. She wrote a movie called Powwow Highway, which recently got into the National Registry of Film, by the way.
Oh, nice.
But I was kind of like I had no record deal. I had no publishing deal. I was kind of just eking out a living. I was widowed. It was a little rough corner, and hard times now. And I got a call out of no, this is where you come in, David, because the EPO festival down at
I know you always call it that, EPO. I love it.
Festival down in what's the town in Orange County?
Well, this was in Orange County. Yeah, was it Garden Grove or?
Yeah, Garden Grove. Grove. But I drove by there just a couple of years ago because my daughter went to Chapman University down there.
Okay.
But the invite was come on down and you'll play 5 songs. And it's a nice little amphitheater. And I remember half the amphitheater was in shade. That's where everybody sat. And the boiling hot sunny part, nobody was sitting. And we did 5 songs, and it was P. Hux with Rob and Gordon. We were good as always. And then Jeff Foskett played. And I said, man, this guy can really sing and play. He's great. And we talked to each other backstage, and I said, you were awesome. He goes, you were awesome. I said, no, you were awesome. And
oh, wow.
Usually that doesn't add up to anything. You say goodbye, you never see each other again. But he called me and said, look, I want to record your song Bazooka Joe, and I need you to play on it. And then I'm doing some dates an hour north of here. Can you play some guitar with me? And we just kind of kept in touch. And then I got this call out of the blue from Eric Troyer, the keyboard player in ELO Part 2. And he said, I called up Jeff Foskett recently to get me a copy of get me a gold record because I sang on Double Fantasy with John Lennon, and I said, really? That's cool. And he said, yeah, Jeff's good at that stuff. And, hobnobbing with the labels. Jeff was a really good talker.
Yes, he was.
And then he said, and then I mentioned to him that we were looking for a guitar player who could sing and write songs. And he said, cancel the auditions. You're the guy. And I went, no. What? And I said, and he goes, are you the guy? And I said, of course I'm the guy. So I learned like 6 or 7 songs, and they flew me over to England to audition in Birmingham, and I kind of fucked up Evil Woman because the phrasing is really weird. Like, hey woman, you got the blues, but if you don't write that next 2 words on the same line, if you put them down at the next line, you'll go, hey woman, you got the blues, but you never got this. Oh shit. And then Kelly Groka, the bass player, he stopped the song. It was like the 5th song. It wasn't the first song, thank God. He stopped and said, I sing this one anyway.
Yeah.
Just play. And I went, oh, thank you. So,
what was the moment like though? Because that's what fascinated me in the book. You're flown to England. You're going to play 5 songs. They told you to, learn 5 songs, and I know you learned one more on top
105.38 Overthrow, because that was my favorite ELO song. And I said, well, if I don't get the gig, maybe I can at least play this song with them.
Right. But it wasn't the first song that you did, if I may, in the book was "Do Ya?"
Yeah. To the best of my recollection.
To the best of your recollection. And of course, you're the guitar player. And that song starts off with the three guitar chords at you know, and
Well,
I mean, at that moment before you hit that, because you don't really say this in the book at all, but when you're standing there with all the guys in the room and you've got to start off with these three chords, it's all, I mean, what was that feeling like?
I do talk about it in the book. It's like if you play, if I was too excited and went
right too fast,
if I played it too fast, it'd be like, oh shit, you know, either tell him to slow down or we're going to play 3 minutes of hell.
It wouldn't have been a Wonders moment, in other words.
It would not be good. So it has to be like, you know, it's got balls. It's mid tempo.
Right.
Even if you don't think of it as a mid-tempo song, it is, and it's got to be kind of crunchy, and you got to have your slides of which I describe as a bus downshifting kind of a sound.
Yeah.
And it's not hard to play. You just have to play it right, you know. And so after a couple of songs, you know, nobody's expression is changing much. The English are good at that, and also, you know, they had other people to audition, so they weren't going to hand out any jobs yet. And then after I fucked up Evil Woman a little bit, we did 10538 Overture, and I was free to do it. I wasn't, you know, I just wanted to enjoy playing it. And I could see the guys in the corner of the crew going, you know, this guy's keen for the gig, you know, and they took me out to dinner later that night and asked me in, and it's like, we're going to South America, you know, we're going to Eastern Europe. It's like, well, this is different. This is awesome, you know.
And why do you think the music of ELO and then of course Orchestra Part 2, why were they so big in South America?
Because it's good.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
so the question is better, why isn't it big somewhere?
Well, it's the biggest song there is Last Train to London. That's like Hey Jude, and in Russia, Ticket to the Moon is the biggest song. It's, you know, in the saddest of all keys, D minor for Russia. It's just, I think there were massive radio hits all over the world at certain points. South America was a little later. You know, they were in the later period of ELO. And Russia, I think ELO was probably one of the bands that they traded in the underground, you know, and made copies of when it was frowned upon to listen to Western music, you know. And there's just, I think there's a big, long history of that music turning people on. I mean, look, the catalog is insane. ELO is
one of those bands where once you start rattling off the hits that you know, and it keeps going and keeps going, and after a while you go, how many were there?
Yeah, there's a lot. You know, you can go see a band and they'll have the 3 songs.
Sure.
And then you got to sit through the new stuff, and it's like,
I mean, you guys could show up and literally just play the songs that people know, and that would fill up a whole evening just on the songs people know.
It's kind of what we do. There's 17 or 20 hits. I think the most unknown song is probably Night Rider.
Wow.
You know, which is a great song. And I mean, you know, he even had disco hits like Shine a Little Love, you know, that was big. But you know, the great ones to me are Blue Sky and Do Ya and Showdown, Sweet Talking Woman, Evil Woman, Don't Bring Me Down.
Please say Can't Get It Out of My Head.
Can't Get It Out of My Head. Maybe the most beautiful song I've ever heard. You know, I mean,
it's up there.
It's I've played the songs 1,000 times, 2,000, you know, whatever it is, you know, rehearsal and live and sound check. I'm not tired of the songs.
Yeah.
I don't know, because you know why? There's no like, all right, we're going to sit in A minor for a little while. You know? There's no jams. There's no downs. There's no downtimes. There's no drum solos. It's super tight, and that's right up my alley. I like no fluff, no muss, no fuss. You know, just it's all killer, no filler.
My buddy Mike Simmons is the head of the music department at Huntington Beach High School, and he's a huge ELO fan as well as other great 60s and 70s acts. He taught his students how to play ELO and Jeff Lynne songs, and he put together this whole project, this whole orchestra. It was a little over a year ago. I went down to see them play. these are high school kids. You can't, I mean, they don't know ELO from a hole in the ground, but they got this stuff down so well. You would have been absolutely blown away by this, I think.
Yeah,
I don't know if he's ever going to do it again with a new group of kids, but if he does, I'll let you know.
How many string players did he have? Just curious.
A lot. I didn't count. But trust me, it was a big orchestra.
That's what differentiates it a lot. Is like, it really helps. And we don't always play with orchestra, but sometimes we do, and it's magnificent. But
sure.
Yeah.
But if you've got some good string players, because Lou Clark's string arrangements. I mean, I was in a band with this guy for 20 years. It's like any on No Rewind, the original album we made. I got 4 of my songs on there, and they all got the Lou Clark treatment. I mean, I'm just telling you, it just chills. He's such a good arranger. And I think a lot of the ideas were Jeff's. Jeff would probably whistle it or say, I want something like this. And then Lou would go, properly write it. And Lou worked with Ozzy, and I mean, he worked with a lot of people when they needed orchestrations. He was a very popular guy over in England, and we played with the Royal Philharmonic. It's been an incredible experience. And all these guys are humble guys. We just hang out. We love each other. It's really fun to hang out as grown men, and they're all nice and super talented. It's really cool,
And just to throw aside here, one of my favorite ELO songs. I don't even know if you played this in concert with the orchestra Part 2. Sweet as the Night.
We haven't done it. It's a great song off Out of the Blue, right?
Out of the Blue.
Yeah.
And I just that song has stuck with me forever as well, for whatever reason.
Yeah,
I love that song.
If that had been done by somebody else, it would have been their best song, probably.
Probably. Yeah, it's just it. You could do a whole set of songs that weren't the hits. Yeah, and I'd still be a lot of people would still be sitting there going, "Wow, that was incredible." Wild West Hero off of Out of the Blue.
We do that one. We do that.
Okay. Have you done my favorite song on Out of the Blue, Summer and Lightning?
No, it's just that we only have so much time.
Yeah.
And if we don't play, or it's like they didn't do shit, It's just something you deal with as a commercial artist. I mean, we're there. They want to hear the hits, and
sure.
They all go, "Oh, I know that one. Oh, I know that one. Oh, I know that one. I know that one." That's what it's like to see us. So it's, I get it. I respect it.
Yeah, of course.
I would happily play. Well, don't hold me to the fire, but I would happily play a 2.5-hour show with all that stuff mixed in. That'd be awesome. I'd like to at least do that once.
You're going to give them a call, hold you to
it. Yeah. Well, I mean, we're talking about all these stories and things. And again, we want to make sure everybody's checking out Electric Light Odyssey. I want to get it right. My Zigzag Life, and the iconic band that changed everything. This is the author sitting right here with us, Parthenon Huxley. It's available directly from you, and you'll sign this thing, ParthenonHuxley.com. It's been scrolling across the bottom the whole show here. I've got my copy that came from you, and I've got the signature right there. It said, to the best podcaster on the internet. Best. I really.
That's right. That's exactly what I wrote.
That's what you wrote. You remembered writing that.
Yeah, I hope your bliss is not deferred.
I wish you would have written that, but
if I only know. Maybe there's a second copy coming your way.
That'd be awesome. Oh my gosh! But this is a great book. I mean, it really is a great book if you're a fan of not only Parthenon's in his entire career, but if you're a fan of the orchestra and ELO Part 2, the whole ELO story.
And there's some conversation, there's some McCartney stuff. There's Roger Daltrey. There's
all kinds of stuff.
This band has allowed me to meet a lot of my heroes, and there's little anecdotes about all of them. They're pretty, and Rusty joining Paul's band. I had to talk about that a little bit.
Speaking of Paul,
pretty crazy.
Speaking of Paul, and of course, I always have to give this pitch when I have some of my favorite artists on this program. As you may know, I've been doing IPO at the Cavern Club.
Yeah,
for many years. We just did our 20th, and we'll be back doing our 21st next. If the stars ever align where it works out, I would be honored if you would play IPO at the Cavern, and it would be a thrill. Even given everything you've done, it would still be a thrill for you because you would feel it.
I'd love to. I visited there with my family because I wanted to educate my daughters.
Sure.
And but yeah, that would be a blast. It would make total sense too, you know. Go back to the source. But
how did you, just real quick, how did you get hooked up with my good friend Cliff Hillis? How did that happen to get in his part in ELO Part 2?
You know, in Maryland and Delaware and Philly, it's people know who each other is, and I think it was Gordon's idea to get him in the band as a backup for Glenn. Glenn Burtnick is our bass player. You know, terrific artist, was in Styx for a long time, AM Records, A&M Records.
We had him on the show. Yeah, we've had him on the show.
Weaklings. I mean, Glenn's awesome, but he's so busy that you know, occasionally we might run into a scheduling problem. And Gordon said we should call this guy Cliff Hillis, and it was a great call because Cliff plays guitar and bass and sings his ass off.
Yeah.
So even after a while, we liked Cliff so much that, you know, even when Glenn was, you know, available as usual, we said, Cliff, you should come too. So now we have 4 singers instead of 3, which is, you know, a glut of riches if you're in a rock band with more than 1 singer, you know. I mean, we've got 4, which is why we can take turns doing lead vocals and pile on the harmony. It's just it's fantastic. And Cliff's great.
Cliff's fantastic. Yeah, I'm and such a, you want to talk about a quiet, humble guy. Go ahead.
Come on in and take a seat. I'm doing a podcast.
Excellent.
My guitar lesson is showing up. This is Woody Woodward.
Nice, super talented guy. Well, while we're getting close to wrapping things up here because you got a guitar lesson coming in, which is cool. What's your status now? What's ELO Part 2 doing? It's mostly fly-ins.
It's mostly fly-ins, fly-outs. We're doing 2 cruises in 25. We're doing Rock and Romance cruise, and we're doing on the Blue in August. I don't think those are officially announced. I probably and I'm playing here in May with my Maryland band. We just signed with a new agency, and they are very excited to work with us. So I'm hoping by the end of this year, when we get really rolling and stuff, we should be working a lot. So that's all good. There's a lot of work ahead after kind of a slow year this past year, but which was good because I could work on my book.
And that's, of course, what we want to close out the show with, talking about the Electric Light Odyssey. That's your zigzag life, an iconic band with the iconic band that changed everything, memoir of Parthenon Huxley. It's available, ParthenonHuxley.com, running across the bottom of the screen. Of course, all the usual places you could order it from Amazon and all those kind of places. Man, I can't recommend this any higher.
I really can't
possible.
wait. It should be here Friday, so keep my fingers.
I'll start rereading it in about 2 days because, seriously, you're coming on the show, and I tried to get through it as fast as possible to get the whole, and I couldn't stop. But I want to reread it because there's a lot of great stories in there that I want to absorb. So I hope everybody goes out and picks that up, and we really appreciate you hanging out here on Material Issues. This has been.
Yeah, it's really great to see you again, Parthenon. It meant a lot that you accepted my invitation.
And may your bliss not be deferred too much longer. May it all kind of hit really wonderfully and hard anytime soon. But thanks again, Hux, for being here. And you guys sitting there, your guitar lesson, he doesn't know how lucky he is, Mr. Woodward.
Sure, I do.
It's all good.
He doesn't appreciate it. Let me tell some stories. Well, thank you guys. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Parthenon. Be well.
It's been awesome. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Cheers.
Bye.
Wow, well, there you go. That was a lot of fun. That was
I mean, as he gets older, he's become more and more ebullient, and he did great, and he seemed to really enjoy it. So I'm very, very happy about that.
Yeah, I mean, we could have gone on and talked.
Thank you, Steve.
In detail, but he did have a guitar lesson there. I didn't want to hold that up. That's his, that's his student and things going on. So I wanted to get kind of wrap it up and talk about the book. But yeah, man, this book is fantastic. I can't recommend it any higher than I am. But
you can't get it out of your head.
I can't get it out of my head. Really good. Like I said, it's very conversational, and you'll laugh a lot between he and the guys from ELO. But I grew up like everybody did in the 70s, and of course, I loved the Beatles. I loved Klaatu, and I had a very good friend of mine, Dave Boyer, who turned me on to early ELO before Out of the Blue, which was their really huge breakthrough in the States, and I've loved them ever since. The orchestral sound of everything they do is absolutely gorgeous. And
I had seen their records around, but there was nothing that compelled me to pick them up. But then on American Top 40, I heard Can't Get It Out of My Head, and I said, oh my God. And of course I ran out and bought at least 3 or 4 of their albums at that point, whatever they released. I guess El Dorado would have been the 4th album. So yeah.
And of course, P. Hux Deluxe, probably in my top 10 or 20 albums of all time. I just love that thing top to bottom,
Yeah,
I think it came out
with all the power pop stuff that was coming out in the mid 90s. This is definitely one of the ones that rose to the surface, where we were talking about it constantly on oddities, and
all the time.
Everybody loved it. Yeah.
It was right about the same time, I think, as one of my favorites. Remember the band Feet of Clay?
Oh yeah. They played the first IPO.
Loved Ralph Bruner. I'm still in contact with him all these years later. But those 2 albums, the Feet of Clay album, the P. Hux Deluxe, man, I probably played those things every single day.
Wow.
At some point, loved it.
Yeah.
And to have him here on the show and talk about what a great career was a great get, David. Really, really well done. Good.
Well, I'm happy it happened. And speaking of guests, speaking of great gets, or at least I think this should be, a new old album, or an old new album, but not the first time, by the Sorrows. It's coming out shortly on Big Stir. Parting is Such Sweet Sorrow. Yet another album that was recorded back in the day and now is seeing the light of day, and it is awesome. And on the 19th, 2 weeks from now, we will have as our guest the main man of Sorrows, and still recording under his own name, Arthur Alexander, will be our guest on February 19th on Material Issues. And we can even, we can talk about the Poppies also. One of my favorite late 70s independent singles was If She Cries by the Poppies. And then that went into Sorrows, and Arthur Alexander has put out some wonderful music over the past several years. So it'll be great to have him as a guest.
That'd be awesome. That's awesome. I saw the Sorrows play in Dunellen, New Jersey at a cool little club pre-pandemic, and Robbie Rist was playing bass with them.
Oh yeah.
Very cool. So look forward to that. February 19th.
Yep.
As always
irons in the fire. If we don't get a guest for next week, I've certainly got 2025 is starting out like gangbusters with stuff that I've been picking up lately, or stuff that's been sent to me for review. So there's a lot of cool stuff we could definitely talk about next week, if indeed we don't get a guest. But I'm working on it, and I know you
never know. You never know.
Yeah, you never know with us.
That's why you got to subscribe over on YouTube, materialissues.com. Just hit that subscribe button, and you'll get notified. Just we don't spam. We just let you know early in the week. And
again, my condolences, and I know yours as well, go out to the family of our first ever guest on Material Issues, who tragically passed away a few days ago. That would be Sal Maida. The bass player for Roxy Music and Sparks and Milk and Cookies, and some bands, some recent bands as well. It's really, really, really sad. Again, our heart goes out to everybody in his orbit, for sure.
But it takes us back to kind of what you and I talk about by doing this show. Not only is it a labor of love and we'd like to talk to these people, but we consider some of these interviews we're doing as an archival project. And we had a wonderful interview with him, and it's out there. Materialissues.com, as all the episodes are, 190 of them. So I think it's very cool that we got to archive that. And
if our interview with him bombed, we may have given up at that point.
Exactly.
Said, we'll just do ourselves. And after like 15 shows, we'd have gotten bored with each other, and
it's been done.
So Sal definitely helped us.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, good memories. Good memories. Well, cool. So we got something to look forward to February 19th, Arthur Alexander. And we got irons in the fire. We've got stump the bashes we could do. We got all kinds of fun stuff. So you never know. So we thank everybody for hanging out tonight. I've got to go see if my new puppy has destroyed anything in the house. She did stop barking, which means she probably either went to sleep or accidentally electrocuted herself or something. I don't know.
I think it's not the latter, because I don't think so. She did that.
Yeah, I think my internet would go out. But the new puppy, I may change her name to Audio. I don't know.
There you go.
It's a little Italian. We'll see. But it's all good, everybody. But David, love Tarina. Have a great night.
Love to Ches and Audie.
And Audie, very good. And we'll see you and everybody next week here at materialissues.com. Good night.
Absolutely. Good night, everyone. Be good. Stay safe.
Or have fun trying being bad. It's all good.